Another Coloradan arrested for storming the Capitol, as an elected Republican in our state says he was there, suggests it was Antifa, and hints that something may prevent Joe Biden from becoming president tomorrow. Wow. Let's talk about how we can rescue people we love from the grasp of these conspiracy theories. There's a strategy to doing it in a way that works. The governor says Colorado could be doing a lot more vaccinations, but the supply goes dry each week. The very expensive, very unused field hospital at the convention center is getting packed up. And a popular way to open the outdoors to more Coloradans, it's expanding. And it's next. Let's begin tonight with a discussion about extremism in our state. Another arrest locally tied to that Capitol siege in Washington. There's another elected official here stoking a new and concerning conspiracy theory that Joe Biden may not become president tomorrow. And then we're going to step back and get some expert advice on how we can reach out to people in our lives who have become consumed by these conspiracy theories, people who have become radicalized. The lesson for the next attempted coup is fewer photos on social media. Investigators say social media postings is how they caught 48-year-old Patrick Montgomery in Douglas County. He's now facing federal charges for his role in the insurrection at the Capitol. His own photos placed him inside the Senate chamber. Montgomery told federal agents that he was allowed inside the Capitol, and he repeated the conspiracy theory that it was actually Antifa in there doing the real damage and the real violence. A Republican state representative from Fremont County, who was also present in Washington during the January 6th insurrection, is also claiming that the storming of the U.S. Capitol was the work of Antifa. And Representative Ron Hanks is now suggesting that foreign intelligence agencies may swoop in to keep Joe Biden from becoming president tomorrow. Representative Hanks sent out a fundraising letter this afternoon suggesting that the Capitol attack was Antifa in disguise. Representative said that Israeli or Australian intelligence agents may come forward soon with evidence that the American election was rigged. And Representative Hanks said the State of the Union is quote-unquote grave, suggesting that Joe Biden's an agent of a foreign government who must not be allowed to get the nuclear codes. And then Representative Hanks' email asked people for campaign donations. It is clear that the radicalization of our neighbors extends from everyday Coloradans to elected Republicans. Running through a lot of these delusions is the QAnon conspiracy theory, which holds that tomorrow is the last chance for President Trump to round up and execute his enemies so he can remain in power. We've heard from a number of you wondering how you can get through to people in your life who have been radicalized. Our Steve Steger talked with a DU professor who specializes in extremist intervention. She says the solution is uncomfortable.
The pandemic has just been a perfect storm.
If you want to help someone in your life who slipped into believing some troubling things, you need to know where they're coming from first.
It tends to stem from real economic issues, concerns about immigration, worries about the direction our country is going in.
Rachel Nielsen leads the Colorado Resilience Collaborative at DU.
It's stemming from a personal need, and usually a need for identity and a need for belonging.
Her group focuses on stopping violent extremism through intervention, talking to people with radical points of view before they do something violent.
We can still influence our friends and families. Cops can't. Law enforcement can't.
So say your uncle is going on and on about a cabal of Democrats and Hollywood elites who drink the blood of children. Nielsen says as much as you want to argue with them about how QAnon is bonkers, you shouldn't.
And certainly not arguing that somebody is wrong or that they lack intelligence or they're not seeing it properly, because all you'll get back is argument. But to say, I've never heard you say things like this before, and I've just been curious about, what you find appealing about what you've been seeing.
It will feel uncomfortable, she says, but it will avoid argument and help you get to the root of what that person was feeling that led them to the extreme. And it might just prevent the extreme thought from becoming a violent act.
I think the worst thing that you can do to a person is just ignore them altogether.
Now, Nielsen says in the grand scheme of things, most people with extreme views are not going to commit a violent act. And should the group that they believe in engage in a violent act, most people would typically push away. The thing that she worries about, Kyle, there's a minority of people out there in those groups who see something violent happen, like we saw on January 6th, and tend to lean into that and double down. She cited federal research that says into violent acts like that found that generally there are about 3 people in that person's life that know about this, that have heard about these troubling and dangerous things, and then brushed it all off.
And boy, to hear her say, don't disengage, and I think a lot of people over this last year have decided to disengage with folks throughout the course of the pandemic, to just say, I'm not dealing with him anymore, I'm not dealing with her anymore.
Yeah, and the pandemic is also making things worse just because it's isolating people, right? People are spending more time online. That's where they're getting their socialization, and these things tend to exist mostly online. And then you've also got the stress and fear associated with the pandemic, which can whittle away people's critical thinking skills. There's a lot of bad information out there, fake news out there that people are consuming and not using their critical thinking skills to realize, oh, wait, that just doesn't make any sense. There's no way that could be real.
We both heard from Next viewers who are apprehensive about having this conversation with somebody in their life who has turned to extremism. It's good to get an expert point of view. Steve, thank you. So the state of Colorado updated today that their scientists estimate that 1 in 105 of us is contagious with COVID-19 right now. 1 in 105. That's a big improvement from the end of the fall when state scientists thought that the infection rate was 1 in 40 people. Our numbers are generally moving in the right direction while vaccinations drag along due to lack of supply. Just under 5% of Coloradans have now received their first dose of the vaccine. State vaccinated about 6,000 people yesterday. Total of 287,000 Coloradans have had the shot. Democratic Governor Jared Polis says that Colorado is in the top 10 states nationwide in terms of the percentage of our supply used. That's an important metric, as well as the percentage vaccinated. The governor says Colorado could be doing more if we could only get our hands on more doses.
I know there's a lot of frustration from people over 70 who want the vaccine right away. And of course, I'm right there with you. We are using every vaccine that we get in our state every week. No doses sitting on shelves. We are constrained by the amount of doses that we get from the federal government each week. We will use every dose, and that means that it's going to take us till the end of February at current supply levels to get everyone who wants it over age 70 vaccinated. We hope that the incoming administration can provide more visibility and transparency to us so we know what is coming. Right now, we find out 3 or 4 days ahead how many vaccines we're going to get for the following week. I let the Biden transition team know that we hope that we can get to a point where we have 2 weeks notice or at least 10 days notice so that every dose can be used even quicker.
As we told you yesterday, the governor's directing vaccine providers across the state to release doses that were supposed to be held for round 2 booster shots. Instead, the state wants those going out as first shots to older Coloradans right now. The governor's making a gamble that the supply chain for vaccines is going to increase soon and that Colorado's going to be able to backfill its supply. We're seeing an encouraging thing happen with COVID-19 hospitalizations in our state. Patient numbers had kind of stalled out, or the pace of the drop had really slowed down. And then just like that, 53 patients left hospitals yesterday, most in a while. It's about double the number that we saw go home or somewhere else to recover in the last week. So that takes us down significantly to 727 patients at last check. Our positivity rate jumped up over 7% yesterday, follows a day where it was under 5%. Let's just hone in on that weekly average, which is now at 5.5%, getting close to what public health experts would like to see, under 5%. The daily deaths in our state from COVID are less than half what we saw during the December peak. Remember, we got to go back a couple of weeks to look at accurate numbers when it comes to deaths. The chart always looks like that, trailing off at the end because deaths are reported days or weeks later. So we feel confident looking back 2 weeks ago when we saw an average of 31 deaths per day from COVID-19. With so many of us still working from home, the state is seeing less traffic, which means less funding for road improvements, which of course will be needed once all that traffic comes back. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger looks at that challenge.
Remember when Colorado roads looked like this during the stay-at-home order? The lack of traffic on roads, leaving gas pumps waiting longer for customers, and the backlog of vehicle registrations has a cost. CDOT projects a 3-year shortfall of $117 million.
We're working on future-proofing the system right now.
Just like the last few years, Democratic State Representative Matt Gray and Democratic State Senator Faith Winter are working together on how to pay for Colorado's roads.
We hit today 51 meetings.
Today's Zoom meetings were with engineers and environmentalists.
We have not had a single stakeholder meeting where people say I'm not willing to pay a little bit more.
But who would pay more and how much? The ideas being kicked around: added fees for services we use out of convenience that require roads for us to get that convenience.
Deliveries, Uber and Lyft and ride shares and car sharing and rental cars.
If you're going to charge more for an Uber ride or a Lyft ride or an iPhone or an iPad, the consumer has to pay that. So that becomes a tax on that consumer.
Republican Senator Ray Scott has been on a transportation committee at the state capitol for 10 years.
How is transportation funding in those 10 years?
It stinks. I mean, we've never got it right. Whether it be legislatively, the ballot, we just can't seem to get it right.
Colorado voters have a history of saying no to borrowing money or providing new money for road funding.
I've spoken to the governor. The governor has said he doesn't want anything on the ballot. I understand that because the last 5 attempts or 4 attempts, the voters have said no.
Scott believes some of the money for CDOT, maybe not all, already exists within CDOT with better checkbook balancing.
Trust me when I tell you that. There are efficiencies that can be found and get some more dollars on the roads because, quite frankly, that's where all Coloradoans want the money, is put it on the roads and the bridges.
This is not us trying to figure out how we're going to make it through the next year or 2 years, hopefully, when we're back to normal. This is about the next 50 years. This is about the next 100 years.
That was Representative Matt Gray, not Matt Gratt. There's another potential fee you didn't hear about in that story. It's a gas fee at the pump. Now, if you're thinking, well, we have a gas tax, what's a possible gas fee? It's that the gas tax hasn't changed in 30 years, and there's little chance that voters statewide would say yes to increasing the gas tax. So another idea that the legislature will continue is adding a fee at the pump that everyone pays, not just delivery services or ride shares. How much, I asked. They don't know yet. They're listening. The lawmakers are. We'll know a number at some point. I'm told not much, whatever that means, though.
If it's a fee and not a tax, then we don't get to vote on it. Yeah, we weren't born yesterday. All right, thank you, Marshall. Colorado's $21 million field hospital will close down without seeing a single COVID patient. Enjoying our state's great outdoors should be for all our neighbors.
There's people of all abilities, and sometimes there's different areas that are a little bit harder to get to.
Simple technology, opening more places to more people. Next. Tonight's next question came in anonymously by email. Someone asking, is Kyle Clark a communist? No. The state's emergency management team's taken down that field hospital at the convention center, the overflow site for pandemic patients that never got overflowed into even once. It was an expensive backup plan that Colorado never ended up needing. The convention center is going to get handed back over to the city of Denver by March 25th. State will have leased it for 353 days at a cost of $21.2 million.
Even with afternoon sunshine, temperatures only at 40 today. We've got a cold, calm night, warmer weather Wednesday, but the wind will be advancing as the high and low pressure off to our west come close together. That gradient will tighten. We are expecting a warmer day than these highs that we saw this afternoon, but the winds will be ferocious. High wind warnings posted as winds blow out of the west from 20 to 40 miles per hour. Gusts to 75 possible above 7,000 feet off to our west. Clear, cold, light winds for now, low 22. Tomorrow, sunny and warmer, high 57. Foothill wind will die down as we get into Wednesday evening. Cool and dry Thursday and Friday, and maybe a snow shower Saturday afternoon and Sunday as well.
We really want to be inclusive, and we want to think outside the box. How do we get people to recreate outside and do it safely?
A popular program is spreading to more state parks, because the outdoors is for everyone. Next. Colorado saw record numbers of visitors to state parks in 2020. I mean, just anything to get out of the house, right? A program to expand access to the outdoors to more Coloradans, one that we have showed you before, is now expanding to a park on the Eastern Plains.
So we are at Bar Lake State Park. You know, there's people of all abilities, and sometimes there's different areas that are a little bit harder to get to. The outdoors needs to be accessible for all, and this is going to help people do that. So this is our track chair, and the track chair program actually started at Staunton State Park, and they lent us this one for about a month, and we had our first family out on a Sunday. So it was an experience that they could have together, which sometimes is difficult if they have different abilities. You know, we really want to be inclusive, and we want to think outside the box. Not just a regular chair. It's really meant to be on different terrains, different elevations, different types, like if it's muddy or wet or even snowy. Whether you're going up in the mountains or you're out here on the plains at Bar Lake, we want people to experience the outdoors. This has been a busy time of year for all of our state parks, and we really just want to share our resources, provide a safe, clean, healthy place for people to go. There's people of different abilities and backgrounds, and you know, we're here as park staff and park rangers to help people enjoy the outdoors. So please reach out. We want everybody to be able to enjoy the outdoors and do it safely.
That thing is a serious unit. That's pretty cool. That story came to us through the lens of our photojournalist Foster Gaines. There's only one track chair out at Bar Lake State Park right now, so you got to call ahead and make a reservation if you or somebody that you know would like to use it. We saw a car with an extra layer of Colorado on it, and your feedback. An extra layer of sass tonight. Next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a true Colorado sunset, minus a view of the actual sun. So Joan was coming down 285 into Bailey when she spotted this Colorado masterpiece. Dusty Subaru, bike rack on top, complete with the dusty drawing of the sun setting over our mountains. I love that so much. Joan knows what Next likes, so she sent it our way. Keep it coming. Email next@9news.com or get our attention on Twitter with the hashtag HeyNext. Every day, you just fill our inbox with stuff. Like when I mentioned the other day, our fascination with goats doing stuff in Colorado, and Rebecca's like, oh, yeah, meet Goose and Chloe. They come on all my warm weather adventures around Summit County and Buena Vista and South Park. Here's the best part. They're fainting goats, so she says if they get spooked by somebody on the trail, they're like, whoomp, and she has to wait for them to get back up, so you can start walking again. Feedback tonight from Kim. It's a great segment with Steve Steger on engaging extremist family members. She mentions a relative of hers and says, haven't talked to him in a long time because of it. Now I might try. Izzy says, I should be excited for tomorrow, Inauguration Day, but with all the conspiracy theories scaring me, won't be able to rest until after Joe Biden is sworn. Can't be alone in this. Izzy, you certainly are not alone in this. I would just say, we have covered the depth of this problem in terms of the radicalization of some of our friends and family members and neighbors. It's not going away tomorrow. Let us know what you need to try and reconnect with these people and invite them back to real life. See you next time.